Dear students, welcome again to the part 9, that is the communication. In the part 9, we have in the module 41 covered up the basic concept about the communication, what are the characteristics, significance and the objective of the communication, and we try to understand the Shannon and Weaver model of the communication, that we call it as a process of the communication, like how the message is being shared by the sender and the message itself is like encoded. A message will be flowing from certain channels. The channels could be your oral communication, your written communication, verbal communication, and how the receiver is decoding the message with the understanding about the encoded message. At the same time, the receiver is expected to provide the feedback about whether they have got an understanding about the message or not. All right. And we have tried to understand about the noise as one of the factor for the barrier about the communication process. We have discussed that if suppose you are selecting the channel of the communication, that you are sending a letter by post. So, the noise could be that the message or the post is like delivered after the due date is over. So, in that case it will be act as a barrier for the communication. So, module 41 gave us an idea about the basic concept about the communication. So, we will be in the module 42 discussing about more detailed approach about the communication. Okay. So, as you can see in this slide, we will be largely discussing the channel of the communication, that is the formal communication process and informal communication process. So, before that we need to understand what is channel of the communication. Okay. Every organization follow a particular pattern of communication channel. Okay. So, it is with respect to the channel can be external communication or the internal communication. Okay. So, communication with the outside world will be your external communication, like you are communicating with the public, any kind of stakeholders. Okay. Stakeholder could be your shareholders, your suppliers, banks, government and many other organizations. So, you need to like discuss important aspects as well with the external parties as well. Let me take one example, like you want to start a new project and for that you need to purchase a big land, okay, to start up a new industry. Now, it will be better that after like planning all the activities internally, okay, planning or formulating the objective, you need to make sure that whether this project is feasible or not, and how you will be getting the detailed information about the feasibility. It will be with respect to the external parties, like you will be discussing it with the state government to take the license as well, okay, discussing it with the financial institutions and the banks, like how they will be granting you the loans, because the capital is limited na? So, you need some kind of financial assistance. It will be from the external communication. You need to know about who are the suppliers in that area, okay. Shareholders, like they will be coming like later part of the process part, okay. But the different stakeholders are very much important with respect to the any kind of planning activities, and gathering those information is become like a challenge for the companies, and communication is that tool that through which the information can be gathered at one place for the purpose of decision making. We have seen in the module 41 that it will help us in taking the key decisions. Alright. So, outward communication is like you are communicating with the external parties, and inward communication is like you are getting some kind of information from the external parties. Okay, like take one factor, the government. Okay. Since your project is a sustainable project, okay, green project, the government will be very much interested because they want to like curb the pollution or any kind of environmental degradation, and your project looks very ambitious. Okay. So, the government will come to you and they will be sending a proposal regarding some kind of collaborative work that can be done. So, it will be an example of the inward communication. Outward communication means you are going outside external parties like the banks and the financial institutions. Okay. So, it will be two dimensional, one is your external communication, another is your internal communication. Now, within the internal communication, we will be discussing about the channel of the communication. Okay. So, our study or our knowledge, the core structure will be with respect to the internal communication. Now, within the internal communication, there will be two. What is internal communication? Like you are an organization. Okay. Within the organization, the different employee at all the levels, they will be communicating. Okay. They can be communicating in two channels. One will be your formal and another will be your informal. So, in this module, we will be discussing everything about what are the advantages, disadvantages of formal and informal communication process. Okay, so this is an overview about this module. Now, let us try to understand. The channel of the communication, we have seen the internal channel of the communication. One is your formal communication, another is your informal communication, and both are very much important with respect to like your decision making, your planning process, your motivation, your coordination, everything depend upon these two channel of the communication. Okay. Now, within the formal communication, we have three layers of the communication. One is your vertical, horizontal and diagonal. It is a formal structure. We will be discussing these things in detail. Okay. Whereas, in the informal, there will be no flow of communication or there will be no pattern of the communication. So, it will be a grapevine structure. Okay. There will be no direction of the communication in the informal communication, like direction could be anywhere. Okay. And within that, the vertical communication, we have like we can call it as 1, 2, 3, this is A and this is 1, this is 1.1 and this is 1.2. Alright. So, the vertical communication is further divided into the downward communication and upward communication. So, this is an overview of the channel of the communication. With this figure, you get an understanding that what we are going to study and how the different pattern of the communication are divided. Okay. So, let me like discuss it once again in a summarized form. The channel of the communication is an internal channel of the communication. Okay. External, we are like not discussing these things. So, internal channel of the communication is divided into your formal communication as well as informal communication. Clear? Again, the formal communication, since it is a formal communication, like it is based on the structure of the organization or it is based on certain rules and like status of the employees and all. So, it will be further divided into your vertical communication and horizontal communication and diagonal communication 1, 2 and 3. Again, your vertical communication is divided into your downward communication and upward communication. Moving next, it is the second part of the channel of the communication is your informal communication. And informal communication, we call it as a grapevine. Grapevine means there is no structure, algae form. Alright. Now try to understand the channel of the communication. Very first one is your formal communication, informal communication. Is it clear? Now vertical communication, as you can see, we have like A, B, C, and this is A. Means within formal communication, very first one we have the vertical communication. Okay, it means the message will be flowing in a vertical manner. It could be from top to bottom, and it could be from bottom to top. All right. So we have two more communication. One is top to bottom and bottom to top. That is, we call it as downward communication and upward communication. Is it clear? Second one is horizontal communication. Horizontal communication, it means be like communicating in this pattern, like this way or this way. It means within the level of the management. Suppose this is the level of the management. Okay. So within the hierarchy, we are communicating. All right. We are not going upward or downward, like the middle level management is not communicating with the supervisory or the top level management, but they are communicating within that level. Okay. Like the plant manager, the sales manager, the production manager, the finance or your accounts manager, they are communicating, and they are the part of the middle level management. Okay. Third one will be diagonal communication. When you are jumping the hierarchy, like you are discussing important element from other department and that too of different level of the management, we call it as a diagonal communication. We will be discussing these things in details. Informal communication, we have no pattern. Okay. Although we will be discussing the informal networks, formal and informal networks in the next module. So as of now, try to understand informal communication is developed by the employee itself. Okay. So and there is no pattern of the communication in this form of the communication. Moving beyond, try to understand the very first one, that is the vertical communication. As you can see, the vertical communication, suppose this is the top level, okay, this is your middle level, and this is your lower level. All right. Now within the vertical communication, very first one will be your downward communication. We have already discussed it. So this is your part A, and second is your upward communication. So two levels of the communication within the vertical communication, it will be downward communication and upward communication. Now what are these things? Suppose the top level manager, okay, top level manager here, they want to communicate the thing towards the middle level or any kind of policies or instructions. So it will be flowing from top to middle and then middle to lower level management. So we see a pattern that the level of the flow of the information is from top to bottom. Okay. So there is a hierarchy in the level of the communication as well. Second is your upward communication. It means like the inflow of information will be from lower level to the top level. Lower level will be communicating to their middle level manager, and middle level manager will be further communicating to the top level manager. So this is the pattern. Now what they will be communicating, let's also try to understand these things and what are the different features of the downward communication as well as the upward communication. Initiation of the work, very first one, the downward communication. Like we have seen or understand that the top level manager are the one who like decide the objectives of the organization or any particular project. all right. So, they will be like the one who will be deciding and passing on those activities towards the middle level manager, and the middle level manager will be assigning or delegating the activity towards the supervisory level. So, through downward communication actually the tasks are initiated. Okay. So, until and unless the lower level manager is getting some instructions or the order, they will not be initiating the task, because they do not have the knowledge or the clarity about the work. Okay. So, it is through downward communication task or the work is initiated. Second one is influence employee behavior. Okay, like there is a leader in a top level manager. Okay, we can call it as a transformational leader. Now we can understand who is a transformational leader or a charismatic leader. Now the charismatic leader is like influencing the behavior of the middle level manager as well as the lower level manager. All right. So they are influencing or they are motivating the all levels of the manager through what? Through downward communication. Okay, because it is someone who from the top is interacting with the middle and as well as the lower level manager. Third one is remove miscommunication. The biggest problem that the organization faces is the noise or any kind of barriers of the communication. It will like break the flow of information from the top to bottom or from bottom to top as well. Okay. So, downward communication will be helpful in like making the clarity of the information at all levels. Next one is the clarity of work as well, like the more and more the top level manager is communicating efficiently with the lower level manager, they will be having the like clarity of the work to be performed for the future activities. All right. Now, what are the information which flows from top to bottom? It could be your orders, some kind of instructions, what are the policies, memos. Memos are also some kind of like warning given towards the levels of the management or the lower levels of management, some kind of circular, any kind of change, rules which has been framed, the instructions with respect to the preparation of the budgets, reports, some kind of recognition, awards, and lecture, some kind of training development program which is also a part of the downward communication. Now, the second part is your upward communication. It is just an opposite of the like the downward communication, and in the upward communication the employees or the subordinates travel the message or share the message, any kind of like complaint, any kind of suggestions, any kind of query they could be having while performing the activities towards the middle level manager, and if this problem is not solved by the middle level management, then it will be moved towards the higher level managers. Okay. So, the flow of communication you will see from bottom to top. Now, what are the different features? Measuring efficiency, like when the supervisory level will be sharing the reports, it will be an data or a document for measuring their efficiency, whether they have like performed as per the standards or not. Second is source of information for decision making, like it may be like some suggestions being shared by the supervisory level towards the upper level manager with respect to suppose the quality of the raw material. So, the top level manager will not be knowing how the raw material is like is being practically used for the preparation of the product. They will be like negotiating with the supplier, that is okay, but actually how the raw material is functioning with the like your own resources, that will be shared by the person who is actually converting that product. So, the supervisory level will be an important source for the suggestions for improvement for any kind of efficiency and improvement of the organization. Sense of belonging, it means like when you are communicating with your supervisor and your any kind of suggestions, okay, is being undertaken by the top level management. that yes, all has been identified at the lower level management, and this will help us in bringing efficiency in the further operations. This will be a sense of belongingness with the subordinates. Releases stress of the subordinates. The more and more you are communicating with the lower level manager, upper level manager, okay, it gives you confidence, and it will help us in relieving the stress over a period of time. So, with this slide we try to understand about the vertical communication, and in the vertical communication we have discussed about the downward communication and upward communication. Second aspect is the in the your formal communication, the second element is your horizontal communication. Now, horizontal communication is like when you are communicating within that level, like we have discussed now, we have 3 levels of the management. One is top, middle and lower. When the middle level manager or the top level managers or the upper level managers, they are communicating with themselves, okay, and they are not sharing any kind of information to the bottom to top or top to bottom. The flow of communication will be like horizontal. Then this communication will be called as the horizontal communication process. We can take some example. For production of any product, okay, we know that all the management or all the departments should make a coordinated effort. Suppose a plant manager is there, marketing department is there, accounts department is there, and your IT department is there. So, we can call plant manager, sales manager, IT department and your financial department. So, all these managers are the part of your middle level manager, we know it. Okay. Now, when they will be communicating with each other, and it is very essential to communicate, like IT department will be providing certain information with respect to how the product design will be. Okay. Now, the production department will be sharing some information with respect to how many units they will be able to manufacture within like a month. Okay. The sales department will be giving the idea that how the product packaging can be done, so that it can be easily sold out or the promotion can be planned. The financial department will be ensuring that we have the sufficient budget. So, based on the budget criteria you can plan all your activities. So, for the production of one product, you see that all the department heads, they are communicating, and it is very essential as well. Any kind of noise or any kind of barriers or loopholes in this communication process will be a negative status for the production of the product. Let us take an example, like the finance department has not an updated data regarding how much you can spend on the technological part, the IT department. Then they will be not knowing about the budget part, and they might be upgrading towards more advanced technology, which is not possible because they do not have the money or they have the financial crunch. Okay. So, flow of information is very important at all level of the management. I am just taking the reference of the middle level management. Okay. So, the point is, when the flow of information or the communication travel between an inter-department, we call it as a horizontal communication. Few examples like inter-department memos, all right, interpersonal communication, line and staff discussion, union meetings. So, these are the part of the communication with respect to a single department. Moving beyond, the diagonal communication. The third part of your formal communication is your diagonal communication. Diagonal communication, as you can see in the picture itself, this is the top level management, this is the middle level management, and this is the supervisory level management or the lower level management. Clear? Now, when you are communicating like upward or downward anything, but you are discussing the points of diagonal approach, like it may be this is the production manager, okay, like it could be your production manager, your marketing, okay, or this is in IT department. Now, one of the supervisory level of the production department, they want to communicate with the manager of the IT department for any purpose, it could be anything, alright. So, this type of communication, like you are jumping from one department to another department and communicating the things, that will be called as a diagonal communication. Okay. So, largely we have seen there are three types of the communication in the vertical communication, that is your vertical communication, horizontal communication and diagonal communication. These are the part of your formal communication, and second is your informal communication. Now, informal communication is something which has no set patterns, okay, like the flow of information, as you can see in this particular graph, the flow of information could be anywhere. Suppose there is a manager A, there is a manager B, there is a manager C and D, okay. Like there is no pattern, like manager A can directly contact with manager B, manager A can directly contact with manager C, okay. It is not like the manager A has to move towards like this network, then this network, then this network, then meeting the manager B. It can jump, but in case of your formal networks, what we have seen, you need to communicate. Suppose your supervisory level want to contact with the top level manager, you cannot jump directly. You have to communicate any kind of suggestions, any kind of query towards the middle level manager. So, there is a set of pattern, rules and regulations are there, you cannot jump directly. But in the informal network, it is something which is not being set as per the organizational structure. It is something which you communicate informally, not necessarily the organizational activities. It could be you are sharing your personal things, like a manager at top level, okay, is very good friend at the manager at lower level. So, there will be true flow of communication. When there will be a formal meeting, there will be like a position or a status will be there. But outside the organization, you will see that both are having the tea in the same cafe. They will be discussing the formal as well as informal things of the organization and of their family things as well. So, these type of things we call it as an informal communication. We will be discussing more details about the formal and informal in the network part, okay, in the upcoming module. So, based on that, what are the advantages and disadvantages of the formal and informal communication? Developing better human relation, like we have just discussed, the top level manager is a very good friend of lower level manager. In the office, they may not be meeting or discussing the things because of the hierarchical structure or the status of the job, but outside the organization they are very good friends. So, it will be helpful in developing or creating a better human relationship. Second is bridging possible gap in formal communication. Like sometimes it happens that when you are too formal, there could be a barrier of communication, okay, like the channel through which you send the message, okay, there could be a loophole in that channel. But when you are like meeting personally, okay, this will be removing that barrier, alright. So, a possible gap between the formal and informal communication can be filled with your informal communication, okay. Like we can take another example, top level manager is good friend of lower level manager, like the top level manager is instructing or giving some orders to that particular employee at the lower level. So it could be that they will be sending an email, they will be sending a letter through formal channel, and there is some kind of break, okay, and because of which the lower level manager didn't get the message. But after like the office hour is done, they met and discussed the thing over a coffee in a cafe. So this is an informal thing now, and they discussed the thing, and then the lower level manager got an idea, okay, you sent the message, I haven't seen that. So informal communication will try to fill the gap of the formal barriers. Third one is very fast, as there is no free, as it is free from barriers. Okay, so there will be no layers, like we have discussed now in this example. The communication will flow from any direction. There is no barrier, there is no network. So it will be very fast in terms of sharing any kind of information. Means of feedback. Okay, feedback is also there in the informal network. Satisfy social need. It means like in the informal communication network, the official as well as largely the unofficial content part are discussed, like any kind of issues you are having in the family, any kind of happiness thing happened in your family, you discuss these things. So these are the part of the informal network, and these are the advantages. Along with that, there are certain disadvantages of the informal network. Very first one is, it is not authentic, because there is no clarity about the transparency of the message, because you are not getting any official document. It is more of like the verbal thing that you are discussing with the your subordinate or the superior. Okay, so the authenticity of this message is not like very transparent. Second is may arise in rumors, because it is not authentic. There are so many things that will be attached with that information. Okay, so it may create the rumors as well. Next is non-accountability. If you are sending a message with the formal networks, then you are accountable for that message. But if you are sharing through any network or no set of pattern, it is unofficial, then no accountability arises. Okay. Leakage of information, confidential information, like the top level manager is a friend of lower level manager. Now the top level manager discusses some confidential project which should not be shared at the any other level, but they met in a restaurant and discussed the thing which should not be discussed with the lower level manager. So there is a chance that it will be leading towards the leakage of information in the organization, and violates unity of command. It means unity of command, that you should follow only one boss, okay, instruction of one boss. But when you are having the informal communication, you communicate so many bosses or so many subordinates. Okay, so it violates these assumptions as well. So with this, we have so far discussed about the communication channel, and within the communication channel, we have learned about the formal and informal communication. Formal communication, we explained about the vertical networks, horizontal as well as the diagonal, and within the vertical, downward and upward communication. As long as we have also discussed about the informal communication as well. So that's all for this session. I am sharing some recommended books. You can go through it, and in the upcoming module, we will be discussing about the formal and informal networks. All right, that's all. Thank you so much.